maybe I'm wrong for thinking so, but I think one of the better things that you can actually do for other people, particularly if you have some understanding of something that they don't really get, is offer correction to them. Now, I'll be fair, I think that you should always accept that other people may have some understanding that you don't have, and that you should probably be ready to receive correction yourself, and should generally be happy to do so if that happens. But I want to talk today on the subject of offering correction. I have a kind of specific purpose for doing that on the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host. I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 3rd of May of 2022, not Thursday, Tuesday. Welcome to everyone who's here on Rumble, the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. On locals.com, that would be Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com, on Minds, MINDS.com, and the Kurt's Religion and Politics group there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be picking me up today. Subject again is offering correction, and tomorrow, well, I'll say that anyway. I normally leave this to the end, but tomorrow we're going to talk about party movement, and I'll get into what I really mean when I get to the end of the discussion today. I'm going to go ahead and go through my notes really quick to let you know again sort of where I stand, and then we will discuss things in the time that we have remaining. I was reading a piece in which an older person was offering advice on how to live a better life, or at least how he or she does so. In this case, it was a he, but anyway, that's fine. Part of that little expository was a nugget that would have been hilarious were it not so ironic. Basically, the person said something like, "I've learned not to correct people even when I know something is wrong." Reasons were given for this, but in truth, whether the person intended it or not, he or she was offering correction. So what amounted to correction? And not only the statement itself, but basically everything else he said when asked how he makes his life better. Talk about the epitome of irony, that would pretty much be it. More importantly, where I don't suggest offering correction to others from a place of bad motivation, doing so from a reasonable place is not just entirely acceptable to me, but it's actually very proper to me to do. Back in my days in the United States Air Force, I had an instructor say something that was pretty cool as far as I'm concerned. Still cool to me this day, today. It was something along the lines of, when you see an airman, grade, rank, and position aside, whose uniform is, quote, out of whack, end of quote, in some way, don't just tell them about it. Offer to help fix it if possible. That individual made it quite plain you shouldn't do things, you should do things in the best way to avoid any dressing down or slamming on the person you were helping. That's the point. If you're trying to criticize with no benefit offered, and frankly, so that others see it as a rule, short of using it to instruct people, stop. That's what he was trying to say. On the other hand, if what you're doing is trying to help that person, there's no reason to not offer correction. I want to be fair on something. If the person in question tells you you're mistaken or incorrect in some wise, you should be open to their correction as well, as I said earlier on. That said, if you can improve or enhance someone's life by offering some form of correction, not only is doing so not a problem in many instances, you can make their life better in the process of doing so. I get not wanting to, quote, dunk on someone, and count that an honorable thing. You shouldn't want to do that. That's not, to me, a good thing as a rule. But if I see someone aiming a nail gun at their foot, getting ready to, quote, pull the trigger, end of quote, should I not stop them from a potentially harmful act? Is that not a reasonable time to correct someone's errant actions? Would you prefer I leave them be and let the paramedics haul them off to the hospital after they end up with a nail through a given appendage? I tend to be a low-key, private person. Just today, and this was the other day now, because I write my notes in advance a lot of times, but just today, though, I was sitting in a restaurant where one of the entrances that is often unlocked was bolted. Multiple times I stood at the door and redirected folks to the one that was open. Is that not correction? If you think I was I was doing what I was doing, to be a wise guy, you need to understand my interest truly was in helping those individuals. There was a time when that was not the way I was. I was not that person, I promise. That time is long gone. Don't think my correcting others is a good or profitable thing. Maybe you should rethink that. Maybe the young man who asked me about credit and how to use it won't get himself into heavy credit card or similar debt without folks like me offering instruction. That considered, was it really wrong of me to help the guy out in his understanding? I don't tend to think so. Okay, done with my notes. Again, I really try and make it so that what I say in my notes is pretty well encapsulating what I want to say overall. But I really want folks to get this. When somebody says, by way of correction, you shouldn't correct people, I have to not just scratch my head, but really wonder what that individual is thinking. I really do. It's like, come on, dude. Is that really what you want to tell people? Is that really where you are? Because in my view, when you correct people, when you help people, particularly if you're doing it from a perspective of enriching their lives, not from one of beating on them or whatever, when you correct people, as a rule, you are doing something that is, in my view, helpful. I'm sorry, it is. I'm not saying you should laugh at people or beat on people or whatever. You can laugh with people if you want, but you shouldn't laugh at them really, and you shouldn't beat on them, and you shouldn't mistreat them or whatever over the fact that they managed to fail in some fashion. That's not a thing. That's not something that you ought to do, and it's not what I'm suggesting or saying is a proper way to do business. On the other hand, when you see a person who is trying to start a car and really doesn't understand how that works, and you try to help that person to start that car, that is not inappropriate. When you talk to a person about whether they should buy a car, I was talking to somebody just today, I won't get into details, but the person was saying that there was a potential heater issue with the car that they were talking about buying. And I thought to myself, not this kid, not buying that. I would rather have an air conditioning issue than a heating issue every single time. Why? Because 95% of the time you're pulling the total, I'm trying to think of the name of it, the dashboard out of the vehicle in order to fix that heating problem. Now there's some that you can fix without. If it's a thermostat or whatever, a lot of times you can fix that without. But if the heater core is bad, you're pulling the dashboard out of that vehicle, and that's how that works. So my trying to offer that person an understanding is correction, right? That's what I was trying to do, is offer them correction so that they didn't get themselves in a horribly bad situation and throw good money after bad as a result of having bought a vehicle that maybe is not a great idea. Now, I don't know if that individual will take my advice on that. I can't tell you. But the thing is, I offered the insight, and what they do with it, that's up to them. And this is what you need to understand. This is where things are, in my view. If you correct people, that's not a wrong thing. That's not something that you can't or shouldn't do. It is wrong if you're, like I say, ha ha ha, ho ho ho, whatever. I'm not in that. I'm not for that. I'm about helping people to live better lives. I don't do my videos because I want to laugh at people. I don't want to do my videos because I want to mistreat you. That's not who I am. That's not what I'm about, and it's not what I suggest you should be. Okay? If you're going to help people, if you're going to offer correction or do anything for people, what you need to do is make sure that you're asking yourself a simple question. Will I be helping this individual by what I do? Am I taking that individual's best interests into my considerations when I actually provide them with some sort of information or help them out in some way, regardless whether the thing that I do for them seems to be embarrassing or whatever. And again, I'm totally fine with taking somebody to the side or carefully doing something that makes something clear to somebody without directly saying something so that they don't have other people find out things that are embarrassing or whatever. I'm okay with all of that. I don't have a problem with all of that, and I don't think you should be either. But the point is, please, please, don't tell folks, don't correct people. Don't do that. If you're trying to be mean or rude, I get telling that person, be quiet. I get it. If a person is trying to be mean or rude. But if a person is truly trying to be helpful, truly trying to help others, truly trying to make their lives better, I can't emphasize enough that I think correction, offering correction, is a perfectly reasonable thing to do. Okay, this has been the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. I'm your host, I'm Kurt, and today is Tuesday, the 3rd of May of 2022. That means tomorrow will be Wednesday, that middle of the week day, the 4th of May of 2022. Thank you for everyone who's been here on Rumble, on the podcast, on YouTube, on BitChute, on CloudHub, on my Facebook page. That would be the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. On kurtzreligionandpolitics.locals.com, on Minds, MINDS.com, and that would typically be the Kurt's Religion and Politics group where you would find me there, on Parler, on Gab, on Twitter, or wherever else you happen to be hearing or seeing me today. Subject for today has been offering correction, and as I said before, we're going to talk tomorrow about party movement, and it's more or less a discussion of how the left and right have changed or moved in the course of time, primarily in the United States from a political perspective. Hope you're having a good day today. Hope everything is going well for you and continues to do so. And hopefully we will see you again on tomorrow's, that would be Wednesday, the 4th edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. The speaker on this edition of the Daily Summation is Kurt Schubert. This podcast was created on Tuesday, the 3rd of May of 2022. The Daily Summation is created for Kurt's Religion and Politics. Thanks for watching today's edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back tomorrow to check out the next one. Remember, on various platforms, primarily Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub, and the audio podcast, you can subscribe to my content. For the audio podcast, you probably want to use Apple, Google, or Spotify. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or Spotify. In order to find me on those platforms, you can go to the Kurt's Religion and Politics channels on Rumble, YouTube, BitChute, and CloudHub. You can also get to my content on Facebook by finding the Kurt's Religion and Politics page there. Minds, MINDS.com, where you will find me at the Kurt's Religion and Politics group, and Kurt's Religion and Politics.locals.com as well. You can look there. I post my daily video on various social media sites, really only about 3, Parler, Gab, and Twitter at present. I am at KP Schubert on each of them, and you can find me under them, and you can find the videos under me. You should be able to find my podcasts on Google and Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's also on podcasts.kpschubert.com. That's podcasts with an S, .kpschubert.com. If you're looking for me on various of the podcast sites, you probably want to search Kurt's Religion and Politics, not the Daily Summation. Keep in mind, you can subscribe to my content on various places that I put it. All constructive feedback is welcome. You can like, dislike, add a rumble, or give whatever feedback is available on any of the platforms that you can do such things. You can also add a comment on what I put there. Unless you're advertising or doing something that I believe will harm others, I'll leave your comments out there even if I don't agree with or understand them. I will try to let you know I've seen them when possible and may reply if I feel it's reasonable, appropriate, and possible, of course. Thanks again for viewing this edition of the Daily Summation from Kurt's Religion and Politics. Don't forget to come back again for tomorrow's as well.